All right, so let's get into it without any further ado. David Ayer is our first topic of the day. He is hinting at a possible future for the Ayer cut in the DCU to be a type of Elseworlds story. And from what I understand, this is yet again another thing from Twitter. Twitter just seems to be a gold mine right now for DCU news. And I'm not exactly sure on the specifics of it, but that he was answering a fan that he had talked to James Gunn and had faith in the DCU and that, not to give up hope yet. There might be some hope out there still.
And that there were some exciting things to come.
Right. And for me, that's exciting because I actually was really hopeful for that movie when I saw the trailers. Because if you didn't know, the trailers look completely different than the movie we got.
At least the first, maybe even the first two trailers.
Right, like the very first trailer, I was like, that looks dope. There's a lot of Joker, there's a lot of Harley. Like, this looks like it's going to be a really gritty, dark, fun time, but still have some lighthearted moments. And so I was really excited about that. And then you get into the movie and it's like, what the fuck with the bubble effects and all of this other stuff going on.
Watercolor effects.
Yes, and it's like, this is so clearly a music video that's drawn out for 2 hours. I don't get it. And yeah, that movie just turned out to be a mess. So I was always hoping that especially with the Snyder cut happening, that, okay, well, maybe this opens the door for more of people's cuts to come out that have been, so wrongfully affected by the studios. So for me, I'm just hoping that David Ayer actually gets this because I've always wanted to see all of those scenes of Joker, Jared Leto's
that were
Joker.
Cut out.
Yeah, I know, Jared Leto isn't necessarily everyone's cup of tea, but I do like his Joker, and I thought he did a really good take on it, so I'd still want to see that version of Joker.
Yeah, and I'd really like to see all of the different scenes, not just Jared Leto's, but of the whole cast, because, of course, David Ayer is going to say his movie was way better than the theatrical cut, but he has been even more vocally against the theatrical film than even Zack Snyder with the theatrical cut of Justice League. I mean, David Ayer has said multiple times that is not his film. The extended version that they called the director's cut or whatever is not David Ayer's cut. So he's been very consistent in the past and up until this point in saying that he does not give up on the Ayer cut happening. The chances for a David Ayer Suicide Squad could be better than ever, even better than when Walter Hamada was running DC, because James Gunn and Peter Safran are dedicating an entire label to films that this would fit under perfectly. Like you said, DC Elseworlds, like the Batman Part 2, Joker, and the sequel to Joker. So David Ayer's Suicide Squad, especially if James Gunn doesn't currently have a plan for a Suicide Squad theatrical film. I mean, yes, his film was great, but it did not make any money. It came out during a terrible time, and plus it was also streaming on HBO. So it wouldn't surprise me if David Zaslav, who is above James Gunn and Peter Safran, are saying, no, we don't want a Suicide Squad movie right now. So
right, let the Suicide Squad rest.
Right. But if David Ayer already has the footage shot, kind of like Zack Snyder, and just needs a little bit more CGI put into it or whatever, then yeah, there's a definitely good chance that maybe they would take a look at it. But you also got to be realistic. As much as I loved Zack Snyder's cut, it didn't make them any money. And it did gain subscribers, but they came out and said multiple times it wasn't the amount of subscribers they were looking for. And I don't know if a Suicide Squad movie featuring Jared Leto's Joker would garner a lot of subscribers for HBO or ticket sales. That's my only big question marks regarding this. Would it sell tickets and would it gain subscribers? I myself would definitely buy a ticket or subscribe. But that's because I'm a DC fan and I would like to see what David Ayer did with that movie, because it looked like it was going to be a character-driven movie, an emotional movie, and a dark, kind of grittier movie. And that was just not the movie we got. So I would love to see it. I don't know if we'll actually get to see it, but David Ayer himself seems pretty damn optimistic right now. So if you're a David Ayer fan, which I am, I think he's a great director. I would love to see it, like I said. So I'm optimistic for the future and the potential of seeing it, but I don't know if in the next 3 years I'd go under 50%.
Right. I feel a little bit more optimistic about it just because the fans, like, not every fan, and I'm just generalizing here, but a majority or a pretty loud vocal group of fans have been calling for the Ayer cut ever since all of this stuff went down in 2016. And so I do think that James Gunn and Peter Safran, though they aren't, they aren't being people pleasers. They aren't like, okay, well, here's the Ayer cut, and also here's Henry Cavill, and also here's this.
Right, they're
They
not going
are
to...
listening to the fans, and they are answering questions. And I do think that they could see a potential money-making opportunity here. You could do almost like a re-release. Like, they did a re-release of Titanic, and that movie's 25 years old. People still went to go see it in theaters. I think with this, if you're like, this is the David Ayer cut, this is the movie you actually paid to see. Like, this is the movie that the trailers told you it was going to be. Then people might actually come out and see it. Especially if James Gunn and Peter Safran themselves were endorsing it. I think they could. I don't know if it would do, like, buco bucks at the box office. But, like, maybe you put it out as, like, an extra movie that year. Just to see if it would bring in a little bit more money. If you're just pouring a little bit of money in to finish the CGI and do the finishing touches on it, if it just breaks even, I think it would still be worth it to get this director's vision out there.
Absolutely.
And for the fans to be able to see it, if the fans were able to see that completed vision and to see what they wanted to see. Because honestly, like, you and I, like, paid to go watch it on a date, and you and I are both like, what the hell are we watching? Like, what is this?
I mean, I liked the character dynamics and the banter between the characters, and I thought it was a great cast. But yeah, it was a hot mess of a movie that when I first watched it, I was like, yeah, it was a good popcorn flick. I guess it was entertaining enough, but it was not really a good movie at all. And with each time you rewatch it, it becomes less and less entertaining and more just a drag to even get through.
Not only that, it's just like you find more and more flaws with it.
Oh, and it's a terrible movie. Don't get me wrong. It's always been a terrible movie, and I've known that. But I was just able to be a little bit more optimistic than I am now.
Because you're a DC fan,
And, also another thing, with the release of the Snyder Cut, I think that also really enhanced the fan, not begging, but the fans wanting this cut of this film.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee two things if this film ever gets the light of day. Number one is that it would be better than that theatrical cut of Suicide Squad, the first Suicide Squad. And number two, I think it would make more money than James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, just because it came out at a terrible time. But that being said, if they only have to put a little bit of CGI into it, there might be some that's still usable or some that's already been done. We don't really know any of the details as much, at least not as much as we did for Justice League.
Right.
So we don't really know if it needs another 70 million. Maybe it only needs another 30 million. Maybe it doesn't need anything. Or maybe it does need a lot more than that. But I think chances are that it could actually make 400 million, maybe even 500 million. You know why? Because the Joker's in it. Regardless who it's played by, the Joker in itself is such an iconic character that you could have literally anybody playing it. And that movie, I believe, would make 4, maybe even 500 million at the box office.
Not only that, but Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn is so iconic as the character. She's like
hell yeah.
Like her and Tara Strong, those are your two best, most badass Harley Quinns. And so I think, just having her in that as well sells the movie for you right there.
I mean, if you really want to break down the cast of that original movie, you would get alternate scenes, alternate takes, alternate cuts of not just Jared Leto's Joker, which all of the deleted cuts and scenes from him look awesome to me. But you'd also get different scenes with Margot Robbie, like you said, with Joel Kinnaman as Rick Flag, with Captain Boomerang, which I thought was great anyways, but still, you get more El Diablo, which I also thought was really good. Killer Croc, it's fucking awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So
Definitely.
getting to see all of these characters again, which we got to see some in James Gunn's, but probably won't get to see the rest ever return. But hey, who knows? What do you guys think? Do you think we'll ever get to see David Ayer's Suicide Squad? And if so, would you want to see it?